Shalom. Giving all praise, honor, and glory to Abanawa, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Wakakadash. Double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, whose teaching is one and only true doctrine of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Shalom to the Akim out on the highways and byways, who's pushing this doctrine and risking their lives to do so. Peace to you, brothers. And a sincere salutation to the elect of the nation of Israel, starting with the 144,000. Unto you all I say Shalom. This is your brother Gabar of the GMS Orlando camp with another lesson. May it be edifying unto you. This is just for educational purposes only. This is not for profit. This is for educational purposes only. This is not for profit.
That clear man looked at me and said, "Oh, that's odd. My family owns all of the land behind Hyde Falls State Park." I said, "What?" Apparently, this clear man, 45 years ago, his family, 45 years ago, went behind Hyde Falls State Park and bought off all, he said, all the land. I didn't ask him how many acres. I didn't ask him how much. He just said, my family owns all the land behind Hyde Falls State Park. And when I tell you, immediately I started getting triggered. Now, immediately I'm triggered because in my mind, I'm like, this damn cracker gonna look me right in my face and tell me he got my people shit. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I'm getting militant. I don't know what was going on. But then, after that thought popped in my head, I said, now what is this? Why am I next to this cracker telling me his family owns all of Hyde Falls State Park? I've been pissed all morning about it. Why am I sitting next to the descendant of Hyde Falls State Park? That's how I'm thinking about it. And then, he goes on to say, because I say, well, lucky you, must be nice. Me being funny. But you know, clear people don't pick up on our little isms, you know. So look at me, must be nice. Everybody ain't able, being sarcastic. And look at him. Well, you know, not really. I mean, it's their land. It's not mine. I mean, I guess I'll inherit it later, but and when I tell you everything on the inside of my thoughts wanted to windmill on this man, and he didn't do nothing to me. This man didn't do nothing to me, but I felt the rage of the ancestors. Like, I really just wanted to haul off and just gulp this man in the mouth. And this man ain't did nothing to me. It was so weird. It was so odd. It was so awkward. I just turned my head and put my head down.
Right, this place that this young lady is talking about, it's located in Georgia. Okay. Yeah, and it's it says it's a cascading waterfall south of Atlanta at Hyde Falls State Park. Okay, where you can revel in the nostalgic recreational pastime. So apparently, this is the history of America and our people, so-called black people, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American, West Indians, and Haitians, where the so-called white man would take our land and turn it into parks, turn them into lakes, you know, and apparently this happened, and she just happened to stumble across one of the person who will inherit some of those lands, okay, that was stolen from the so-called black community. And this is a clear book of this man here in America and throughout the world, throughout this earth. That's how he moves. He's nothing but a thief and a vagabond. All right? Now, this next story, okay, if you see the title, they are still in Brooklyn. Now, I grew up in New York, and I've seen it where regentrification, okay, where so-called white people flee the inner city and went out to the suburbs, and homes have become very affordable for the so-called black and Hispanics and Native Americans. And after decades of commuting, they realized it was too stressful to commute. You know, take for instance Long Island, New York, which was primarily populated by white folks, and living in Manhattan, working in Manhattan, and living out in Long Island. That's a hell of a commute. So they have moved back into some parts of Queens, New York, where I grew up. You know, South Jamaica. You know, Richmond Hill, Ozone Park, Howard Beach, you know, Woodhaven, to name a few. And the home prices in those areas has, man, a spike where you cannot afford a house in those areas. Now, a lot of our people, so-called black and Hispanics, they have moved out to Long Island because the so-called whites are fleeing Long Island. So you can more readily afford a home in Long Island than you can in Queens and some parts of Brooklyn. Now, Brooklyn is famous for these brownstone apartments. Okay, these brownstones are now desirable amongst the so-called white people. All right, not only in New York City, you know, but also in Boston, you know, Maryland, Washington. All right. So this lady is telling her story on how they stole her brownstone, and they have been doing that, the so-called blacks and Hispanic, throughout New York for decades now. Okay, and in Harlem, okay, you have former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton having a brownstone in Harlem. Now, I'm sure that they did not get, okay, someone to agree to sell it to them. They stole it.
Probably refinance more than tree down. This is it. Oh yeah, they'll call the cops. Then I'm trespassing. When I tell the cops I'm not inside the house, they'll leave. This is 130 Green Avenue, people. I lived here almost 30 years until I was wrongfully convicted. Hi.
Right out there, area is called Bedford-Stuyvesant, New York. Very famous. Okay, a lot of rappers hail from there. All right. So the whites are now moving into those areas, and they're stealing those properties through the bank, which they own. Okay.
Hi. Hey. I'm going to go up to the top. This has been my house of more than 30 years. And these are the tenants. They claim they moved, but I don't believe it. They stole it. They're criminals, thieves. The HPD was here to repair the building entrance door. I don't know. See, I had painted this. And they came and did this. They always was doing harassment and vandalism. fixed over there. I had changed the locks. They tore up the strips off the door. See the white molding over there? They tore that up. It looks like they're repairing. Yeah. This is coming to an end, people. This was deed theft. You stole the house. You're being investigated. You need to go to jail. So this is my house. And I used to get a lot of calls on me. The buildings department used to always show up and give me a violation. That's another way they harass you. We need to sue the buildings department, HPD, go after the finance department. Believe me, feel like every agency in the city is involved with these criminals that are stealing people's properties. My name is Vyra Lynn Jones. I'm originally from Charleston, West Virginia. I came to New York to do a master's degree at Columbia University. And you know how you feel in your mind, you've done all the right things. Go to college, never broke the law. I found the brownstone here in Clinton Hill. The mistake I made is I got a loan from these people, but their program is called loan to own. Once you deal with these people, they don't have any intention of giving you the property back. So they put me in a fraudulent foreclosure auction, and without my knowledge, they sold my house behind my back. I actually have documents that show that I had $2.6 million to give them to refinance my loan. And what they did to make sure I didn't know they were selling my house at an auction on October the 6th, 2022, they used my neighbor's house. Look at this, 128. Because when you sell a house in foreclosure auction, you have to advertise it. So my neighbor told me he wondered why he was getting all this paperwork about a building in foreclosure. Well, it went into foreclosure because it was COVID. And you know, the banks were, everything was closed. The banks weren't doing any work at all because they were all closed. I had the money to refinance. Nobody did anything until 2 years later when the moratorium was lifted here in New York. They wanted the house because I've refinanced my house. I've had it for 30 years. I've probably refinanced more than 3 or 4 times and had no problem ever.
There you have it. You know, and this is the playbook of the so-called white man. Okay? It's very hard to defend yourself against him because he's your oppressor. Okay? Us so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American, West Indians, and Haitians, we are still living in captivity, so we don't own anything. We don't have our own, you know, justice system. We have to rely on our oppressors to render justice unto us. And as she mentioned, all the city of New York agencies are being paid off to look the other way. So even if you try to sue the city, most likely you gotta get a lawyer that's juice into the system. Okay? And who's the head of these law firms? Okay, those small hats. Right? Who's running the banking system? Small hats. Who's pretending to be us? The small hats. So you're not going to get any justice here in America because we are the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites of the Bible. And these people have conspired against us. So you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American, West Indians, and Haitians, it's time for you to wake up out of sleep. These people do not like you. You do not have a friend in them. So you must get out of America spiritually, emotionally, politically. Because America will destroy you. You have to return to your God. Your God his name is Yahweh. That's his true name in the Paleo Hebrew. And his only begotten son's name is Yahweh Shai. All right? Because this white man does not have your best interests at heart. Okay? He wants us all destroyed. And if it wasn't for the Heavenly Father Yahweh, he would have had accomplished that already. Okay? And he's still trying. This is Habakkuk 1 and 6. For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans. And America is modern day Chaldea, Egypt, Sodom. Okay? Babylon. So these scriptures is referring to America today. Habakkuk 2 and 6. For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which shall march through the breadth of the land, to possess the dwelling places that are not theirs. They are terrible and dreadful. Their judgment and their dignity shall proceed of them. Okay? They are hasty to rape, murder, rob, extort, slander. All right? They're hasty to steal your possession, your dwelling places. They're dreadful and terrible. Okay? They are the curse that's walking through this earth. They not only afflict the Hebrew Israelites, the so-called blacks, Native American, West Indians, Hispanic, and Haitians, they also have afflicted, rape, rob, murder, and plunder other nations of people. All right? So, we cannot rely on getting justice on this side. We were sent here as chastisement, as a punishment from our God, the God of Israel. His name is Yahweh, because of our transgressions. So marvel not if this man trespass against you, because that's what he was created to do. And he has given us a false sense of accomplishment and justice. This lady said that in her mind, she did everything right. She was born in Virginia. She moved to New York. Okay? She went to university. All right? Okay? She's a historian. Okay? Bought this brownstone. Okay? Had tenants. She, in her mind, accomplished the American dream, which is now her nightmare. Her home being stolen right before her very eyes. And this is what these people do, these so-called white people. Just like they did, okay, to the Palestinians. And there's this video, famous video, where these people in Palestine was protesting their homes being stolen by these people. And this so-called white man said, hey, if I don't steal your home today, somebody else will tomorrow. That's how they justify their wickedness. You know? This is Micah 2, starting at 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. Okay? They are the rulers of this earth. Alright? They own all the industry, the banking, the so-called justice system. They make the laws. They run the governments. They run industries. So you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American, West Indian, Haitians, you own nothing. You have no power to change what's going on to our people. But the only power you have is the power of faith. And our power, Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai. That's the power we have by calling on the name of our power. His name is Yahweh, and his only begotten son's name is Yahweh Shai. Otherwise, we're powerless to do nothing. Our strength is in the Lord. Okay? This is Micah 2:2. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. And the Hebrew Israelites, okay, can attest to that. They came to North, South, and Central America and take our ancestors' land by violence and force, and then oppress us in those lands for centuries, and plunder and slander us to this day. All right? Micah 2:10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, only with a sword destruction. Okay? So the Heavenly Father is telling you, so-called blacks, Native American, West Indians, and Haitians, that we have to depart from this place. Spiritually, emotionally, politically. All right? We trust in this system way too much. Okay? I know we live here and we have to live peaceably with all men, and we have to go along with the program. But do not bet your salvation on it. You use this world for what it is, to provide for our mere existence. Meanwhile, pray without ceasing and put your trust in our Heavenly Father Yahweh, that He will redeem us from this awful place very soon. This is Micah 2:3. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go hauntily, for this time is evil. All right? And this family he's devising this evil against is the so-called white people. Okay? That's the family that afflicted us. And he said he's going to devise this evil, and they won't be able to remove their necks from it. Okay? And that's where my fate lies. Isaiah 17:13. The nations shall rush like the rushing of many waters, but our power Yahweh shall rebuke them, and they shall flee far off, and shall be chased as a chaff of the mountains before the wind, and like a rolling thing before the whirlwind. And behold, at evening-tide trouble, and before the moving, Salakia, and before the morning, he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us. All right, one more time from the top. Isaiah 17 and 13. The nations shall rush like the rushing of many waters, but Yahweh shall rebuke them, and they shall flee far off, and shall be chased as a chaff of the mountains before the wind, and like a rolling thing before the whirlwind. And behold, at evening-tide trouble, and before the morning he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us. The true justice is coming, and only our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, can deliver us. Giving all thanks, glory, and praises to our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Kwam Yasharala, Wa Abad Babal. Shalom.